Majora's Mask, the darkest Zelda game and the swan song of the Nintendo 64. Loved by many for its melancholy theme and memorable characters, the Ocarina sequel definitely captures the feel of a real world better than most games in the series. It puts this believable land of Termina on the brink of destruction, and allows the player to see the reactions of its inhabitants to their impending doom. While what we've seen of Zelda U is in stark contrast to the Nintendo 64 classic, as the theme looks very bright, I believe that of all the Zelda games it's possible that it could learn the most from one as weird as Majora's Mask. And today I'm joined by one of the biggest Majora fanatics in the Chamber of Sages, ZeldaConqueror, to go through our 5 things Zelda U could learn from Majora's Mask.
Since Zelda U appears to be changing out the Zelda formula, the development team have hopefully looked back at Majora's Mask for inspiration. It is the most different of the 3D Zelda titles, and the only one that doesn't really follow the typical Ocarina of Time formula. This is why we feel that in order for Zelda U to truly break away from series norms, Uanuma and his team should look at what made Majora's Mask so different, yet so loved by many fans.
It's partially because the world of Termina is so believable that the terrible events of Majora have such an impact on the player. The citizens of Clocktown have very realistic responses to the falling moon, such as denial. Oddly enough, despite how beloved the game is amongst the Zelda fanbase, many of the things the game introduced have never been truly seen again in the series, except for Tingle.
The stuff of nightmares.
Part of the reason Majora is so different to the other games in the series is because it's not set in the famous land of Hyrule. Instead, it takes place in the alternate world of Termina. This helps isolate it from the rest of the Zelda chronology, which supports its already strong role as the oddball of the franchise. Anyway, without further ado, let's get right into our 5 choices for things the upcoming Legend of Zelda could learn from this fan favourite title. Number 5. NPC schedules. It's a feature we take for granted in modern day RPGs such as The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, where the characters in the game have set daily routines that the player can learn and work around. Majora's Mask was a very early game to introduce such a mechanic, and it adds a whole new layer of depth to the settlement and helps it feel more like a living, breathing town. For example, during the Anju and Cafe side quest, the schedules of NPCs are important because certain things will only happen at certain times. For example, at the dawn of the first day, Cafe is seen depositing a letter. Then, a few hours later at 10 AM, the mayor's residence opens up and you can start the quest by talking to Cafe's mother. Later at 10 past 2 PM, the postman delivers a mysterious letter to Anju, and so on. This sort of scheduling really helps make the events of the game seem more realistic. Rather than everyone in the game simply existing to interact with Link, they go about their own lives regardless of player interaction. This sort of feature in Zelda U would help the player feel more like a part of the game's universe, rather than the centre of it. Number 4.
High pressure situations. While I hope the whole game isn't stressful itself, and that there will be plenty of opportunities to relax, one thing I strongly believe Zelda U should take from Majora is the intensity that Termina's situation creates. The whole game is played with the moon looming above you, a constant reminder of the impending apocalypse. This makes even mundane tasks seem important, since every second the moon gets closer, and you're made painfully aware of it by the huge timer on the screen. Some situations in Zelda U, or pressure like Majora, would create a sense of intensity the Zelda series really lacks. It's only in these sorts of situations where you really feel like the hero, since you can clearly see what you're up against and how your actions stopped it.
Number 3. Mature themes. While other games in the franchise have dealt with this, such as the theme of growing up present in Ocarina of Time or the dark themes in Twilight Princess, but no game deals with them as heavily as Majora's Mask does. An obvious example of a dark theme present in Majora is death. Mikau, the guitarist for the Zora band the Indie-Go-Go's, is found mortally wounded by Link after trying to recover his romantic interest Lulu's eggs. His last words to Link are a desperate plea to heal his soul. That's depressing. While there are always some sort of dark elements in Zelda games, none did it as well as Majora. Our world can be a pretty shitty place sometimes, and Termina parallels that by dealing heavily with real issues like death and even anger and blame. Obviously the Zelda games aren't the most violent or bloody on the market, and I'm not saying they should be, at all. I'd love if Zelda U could continue the fairy tale-esque feel the series holds. However, in order for Zelda U's story to be as impactful and hard-hitting as the tale told in Majora's Mask, the darker side of the conflicts in the game must be explored, at least in some parts. Number 2.
Game-changing, innovative items. We couldn't make a video on Majora's Mask without touching on arguably the most important mechanic in the game, the masks themselves. These are some of the most dynamic items we've seen yet in the Zelda series. Since by wearing certain masks, Link takes on an entirely new appearance with a new set of abilities. For example, by wearing the guard mask and after enduring an awkwardly painful looking cutscene, Link gains superhuman strength, as well as abilities, like the ground pound and roll. Use of these masks then allow you to interact in the game world in completely different ways, like unlocking areas that before were inaccessible. When discussing Zelda U, Eiji Uenuma is quoted as saying that he wants to give the player more freedom and allow them to explore more. The concept of the item will be completely different than what you've experienced before. This quote could be hinting at a Majora's Mask-like level of depth with Zelda U's items. And just like with the masks, the set of items that you have control over and how you use them will determine how you interact with the game world more than ever before.
Honorable mention.
Decision-making. Another feature Majora is famous for is a decision-making mechanic, which yet again has a 3-day cycle to think. In Majora's Mask, certain parts of the game depend entirely on the player's decisions. For example, on the first night, Seiken robs an old lady of her bombs. Link can choose to stop the thief, earning himself the blast mask and unlocking the big bomb bag at the bomb shop the next day, or leave the thief be and unlock one of the game's greatest side quests, helping Anju and Cafe. Since Zelda U is set in what seems to be the most expansive Zelda world to date, in order for it to feel real, the actions of the player need to be taken into account like they were in Majora's Mask. Perhaps things like the order in which dungeons are completed, which we know is something Zelda U is mixing up, could have a larger effect on the world than before, unlocking different areas or items depending on your choices. But of course, the reason decision making like this was possible in Majora's Mask was because of the 3-day system, and the fact that the player's decisions could be easily reversed with a quick song on the ocarina. If time travel is present in Zelda U as it often is in Zelda games, this could be used to ease the stress of making concrete decisions.
Number 1. Side quests. If there's one thing that Majora's Mask is known for in the Zelda series, it's its plethora of incredible side quests. From the touching, with the Anju and Cafe love story, to the weird, with a mysterious hand with a bathroom emergency, and an actual defense of the Romani Ranch against an alien invasion. Yeah, you heard that right. It's not quite Pacific Rim, but it's still pretty cool. Zelda Wii U is massive. It's a fact. This is constantly mentioned by Aonuma in interviews, talking about how it's as big as the Wii U can handle. So the big question is, what will fill this gigantic world, except from the really nice looking grass? There's a very reassuring quote from Miyamoto, discussing his time playing Zelda Wii U. He mentions how, during his playtime, he often found himself so distracted by all the world has to offer that he forgot where he was supposed to be headed in the first place. And this is sort of reminiscent of Majora's Mask. You might be setting out to save the Gorons from their icy fate on Snow Peak, but get distracted by a weird dancing ghost who gives you his own corpse's head, stitches included. The point is, if Zelda Wii U can be as chock full of side quests, interesting characters, and intricate subplots that complement the main story as Majora's Mask is, then it will lay to rest the fears of many that the new Hyrule will be bland and empty, in addition to providing many ways to really immerse yourself into the new Zelda. Thank you guys for watching this video. What do you think Zelda U could learn from Majora's Mask? Leave it in the comments below. Thank you to ZeldaConqueror for joining me on this one. Click the link on screen to go and check out his channel if you haven't already. In addition, if you like my new intro theme, please check out Music Proposition, as he's the kind gentleman who composed it for me. Cheers guys, and I'll see you next time.